I watched a colleague spend 2 months building something he couldn't even explain. The whole time, AI made it look like progress. He wasn't lying. He wasn't lazy. He was using the tools exactly the way everyone is telling us to use them right now. And that's what's really bothered me. Watching him, I recognized the pattern almost immediately because I've caught myself doing smaller versions of the same thing. Early on with these AI tools, there were times when I walked into conversations carrying more confidence than I'd earned. AI wasn't making me an expert nearly as fast as it was making me sound like one. Those are two very different things, and I still catch myself slipping into that mindset if I'm not paying attention. But watching this project unfold made me realize something I hadn't really put into words before. Artifact had stopped being evidence. For most of my career, if you handed me someone's work, I could make a pretty good guess about how well they understood the subject behind it. A junior engineer's code failed in junior ways. A thoughtful architecture usually reflected someone who understood systems. A strong strategy deck generally meant someone had done some thinking. It wasn't perfect, but the work usually was an honest window into the person who produced it. I don't think that's true anymore. The colleague I mentioned was smart. I'd happily work with him again. The problem wasn't that he lacked ability. The problem was that he had no formal background in the discipline that this particular project required. Over 2 months, he produced frameworks, diagrams, PowerPoint decks, mock-ups. It was a lot of work. To anyone who didn't know exactly what to look for, it looked like real progress. Then people started asking him to explain how the system actually worked. Not summarize it, explain it. Why was it designed this way? What assumptions did it depend on? What would happen if the requirements changed? He couldn't answer those questions because the design had been fundamentally wrong from the beginning, in ways that would have been obvious to anyone with a couple of years of experience in the field. What's interesting is that a few people did recognize the problems early on, and they said so. But the room really wasn't built to hear them. Leadership had already become invested in the appearance of momentum, and nobody wanted to interrupt it. To me, this really isn't a story about someone doing something they shouldn't have done. It's a story about an organization that could no longer tell the difference between polished output and genuine understanding. And I don't think that's an isolated incident. I think we're going to see this more and more. For as long as most of us have been working, producing good work and understanding the work were tightly connected. You built judgment by doing the work. Now, AI has quietly separated those two things. It's becoming possible to produce work that looks like it came from an expert before you've actually developed the judgment that expertise requires. That's an incredible productivity tool. It's also a new management problem because our instincts haven't caught up. We still respond to the same signals we've always responded to. A detailed document feels researched. A polished diagram feels engineered. A beautifully structured presentation feels as though somebody really thought it through. Sometimes they did. Sometimes AI did a remarkable job helping someone package ideas that they only partially understood. Those two situations can look almost identical. The artifact stopped being evidence. The research around this has been fascinating because it points in the same direction from several different angles. One study found that generative AI gave novice workers a substantial productivity boost while having much less impact on experts. That's actually encouraging. Helping less experienced people become more productive is exactly what we would hope these tools would do. But it creates a second problem. The people getting the biggest boost may also be the people least equipped to recognize when the output is wrong. Other researchers have found that people working with AI often become more confident in their performance than their actual results justify. Confidence starts drifting away from competence. I felt that myself. There were moments when AI gave me an answer that sounded so well-reasoned that I'd catch myself believing I understood something more deeply than I actually do. And that's a dangerous feeling. Not because AI is trying to deceive me, because my own brain is perfectly willing to accept fluency as understanding if I don't slow myself down. This is bigger than individual discipline. Organizations have always depended on work product as signals of competence. If someone consistently produced thoughtful designs, solid code, or strong analysis, you naturally assume that they understood what they were doing. That shortcut no longer works as well as it used to. The artifact no longer tells you everything you need to know about the person behind it. So leaders have to evaluate something different. Can this person explain their decisions? Can they defend their assumptions? Can they tell you where they're uncertain? Can they explain what they would change if the problem changed? The answers reveal judgment. The document often doesn't. Ironically, judgment may become one of the most valuable skills left in an AI-assisted workplace. For me, the practical test has become pretty simple. Can I explain what I built? Not what it does, why it works, why I made those decisions instead of different ones, what assumptions I'm making, where I think it could fail. If I can't answer those questions without leaning back on the tool, then I probably didn't build the understanding, I built the artifact. And for leaders, I think the lesson is similar. Don't just review deliverables, review thinking. Ask people to explain their work. Ask them what they rejected. Ask them what would change their minds. You're not trying to catch people using AI. You're trying to understand whether AI helped them think or simply helped them produce. Those are not the same thing. I don't think AI is making us less intelligent. I think it's making intelligence harder to recognize. For decades, we treated the work as evidence of the worker. AI has weakened that relationship. So next time someone hands you something that looks impressive, just ask one more question. Can you explain it? And the next time AI helps you produce something you're proud of, ask yourself the same question before anyone else does. Because in a world where everyone can produce polished work, the real competitive advantage isn't generating better artifacts. It's developing the judgment to know when they're actually right.